Hello, BookTube. I went to the Brattle bookshop very early this morning, right after they opened, and I was greeted by two wonderful things, two flat-out wonderful things. Wasn't completely wonderful reason why I was there that early, but it's always great to go to the Brattle bookshop. Those of you who are new to the channel, it's a used bookstore in downtown Boston, and it's fantastic. Huge turnover of stock and a gigantic sale lot outside with thousands more books for $1, $3, and $5. And that's wonderful on its own, but two wonderful things happened during this Brattle visit this morning. One was that two of you called in store credit. You are all welcome to do that. You just simply call the Brattle bookshop. Make sure you're not calling the Brattle Theater, since they wouldn't show anything there that I would watch for free. With the Brattle bookshop in downtown Boston, you can call them and simply say, I'd like to give Steve some store credit. More than likely, whoever you get on the phone will not need you to identify me any more than that. I am well known at the Brattle bookshop. Two of you had done that. So there were two store credits waiting for me when I got there. Incredibly generous. Thank you very much. And the other wonderful thing happened when I was browsing out in the sale lot. I was approached. One of you approached me and said, "Oh my God, you're Steve Donoghue." I said, "Yes, I am." You're here in the Brattle sale lot. The person, I'm assuming that you're watching, the person who found me there expressed the same confusion that many people do experience. This is, I think, the 15th time that I have been approached by someone who knows me only from BookTube, making me a kind of celebrity. And the one thing that people always express is, where's Frida? They always want to know where she is, because she's almost always in the shot with me when I'm filming my videos. She doesn't like to be very far away from me. But she doesn't like the subway, and she wasn't welcome in a lot of the places where I was before I was at the Brattle, so I had to leave her home. So she wasn't with me, this feisty little dog. And even if I had nothing else to do but go to the Brattle and she liked public transportation, she'll do it, but I don't want to ask her to do it just for me. But even if she did like that, I'm not sure that I would take her to the Brattle anyway, because she loves to meet strangers, humans. She's not all that wild about dogs, but she loves to meet strangers. And she doesn't give them a choice in the matter. She throws herself at them and screams at them if they don't pat her, if they don't fuss over her. Then she just, it literally screams. It's not a bark, the noise that she makes. It's a high-pitched yodel that'll sometimes be done in such force that it brings her front legs right up off the ground. It's adorable, and it's meant to be adorable. It's meant to make you stop what you're doing and pet her. And although that's fun to inflict when we're out on our dog walks in the neighborhood, I'm hesitant to inflict that on somebody who's maybe having a quiet, sacred shopping experience at the Brattle. So she wasn't with me. But one of you, a recent convert to my channel, found me there and asked if we could take a selfie. If you're watching, please email me a copy of that picture. I have a lot of old world book review friends who still don't believe that BookTube exists, and certainly don't believe that I could have even enough tiny little notoriety so that someone could recognize me in the sale lot of the Brattle bookshop. That picture will go a long way towards convincing them. But that was just terrific, to take a selfie like that with the Brattle behind us. That was just terrific. And, of course, there was the main reason that I went to the Brattle, which was to get a pile of books, which I did. So I thought I would show you that pile of books, although pretty tough to give the top spot in terms of the highlight of the day to mere books when, A, my shopping was subsidized by two very generous people. That is just so nice. It brings such joy to walk into that shop and be told that I have credit. That is just wonderful. And also, B, that someone would come up to me and say, "Oh my God, I can't believe I actually came to the Brattle sale lot, and there you were, standing there shopping for books." I realized that it doesn't do me any good. It doesn't do me any favors. I'm constantly telling people that although I talk about the Brattle all the time and go there a lot, I don't actually spend all of my time there. And yet this person went there on a whim at a random moment, and there I was. So it's going to be hard to maintain that illusion. But let's see the books that I found, and we'll start with a bunch of mass market paperbacks. The first three of which are the old Bantam white spined classic reprints that I, for some reason, love so much. And when I find them, I grab them. I don't see them all that often, but when I do, I grab them. I found 3 today. The first one being Nicholas Nickleby. They look like this. That's what the version that I'm looking for today. I'm not Dickens' biggest fan, but I didn't have this, so I grabbed it. Then Call the Wild and White Fang by Jack London. They all look like that. See, they're fairly uniform in the way they look. The only difference here is the third one, which is a little bit off-white. It's a little beige, and it's the Hunchback of Notre Dame. There is Jean-Claude Froyo at the door there. Wonderful painting. I wonder if this will tell me who did the painting. I think I can almost tell on my own who did, but a lot of these early Bantams might not tell me. They might. Oh, okay. This was a painting done in 1890 by Jehan Georges Vibert, and this particular book is not only translated by Lowell Bear, but also abridged. So, if you didn't have a kind of building a set mentality, you probably wouldn't get this as a Hunchback of Notre Dame. It probably wouldn't be the version that you want. Then I found 2 old Harper Prism mass market paperbacks of Robert Silverberg. I found Lord Valentine's Castle, the very first Majapur book, his series of books, bunch of stories and novels set on the alien world of Majapur, which is enormous. It's much bigger than Earth, but it's lower density, so it works out about the same. And once you get to Majapur and you're wandering all around, there's some outdated higher tech, and Majapur is known to visiting alien races. There are all sorts of races that live on the world, but it's not, Trantor. It's not a high profile alien world with lots and lots of new tech coming in. Most of the people on Majapur live in vaguely medieval circumstances, which allows Robert Silverberg the best of both worlds. It allows him to tell basic, normal stories that don't involve a whole lot of high tech, but always have the high tech there as, a MacGuffin or a plot twist to pull out. And I found Lord Valentine's Castle, and I found the sequel, Majapur Chronicles, where a young man, I'm assuming that's the young man, gets to mentally re-experience formative events in the history of Majapur. And there are other books. It's possible that there would be other mass market paperbacks if I were to go back. And these are not these original paperbacks. These are Harper Prism reprints. So they don't look quite the same. They've got a lot more falderall and a lot less cover. The original versions of these had a little bit more illustration. And then finally, the last mass market is a murder mystery for March Mystery Madness. This is by Bartholomew Gill, and it's The Death of an Ardent Bibliophile. I saw that and had to get it. These are all free, thanks to credit that was called in. But I am an ardent bibliophile, so I had to get this. And it was only after I got it that I realized that I know this author, not personally, but I have read. This author wrote a book called The Death of a Joyce Scholar, which I didn't like. I thought it was a little bit leaden, a little bit eager to explain itself. And now I'm wondering if maybe part of that was just that I don't like Joyce, and it has nothing to do with poor Bartholomew Gill. This is, let me tell you about it. The wealthy, eccentric keeper of Dublin's famed Marsh's Library, Brian Herrick, was a man of unhealthily obsessed with the writings of master 19th century Irish satirist Jonathan Swift. 19th century Irish satirist Jonathan Swift, and with pleasures of a more licentious nature. And now he has fallen victim to his own excesses, his final naked debauch and murder by poison painfully preserved on videotape. Even the normally unruffled Chief Superintendent Peter McGarr is shocked by the shameless pre-death activities of this golden-curled misanthrope. And with forgery, pornography, and rare book theft thrown into the mix, the question becomes not so much who wanted Herrick dead, but rather who got to him first. So it's a bibliophile-centered mystery about someone who loves rare and collectible books, and maybe some of them on the illicit side. Fine by me. Absolutely fine by me. I am not talking about murder mysteries much during March Mystery Madness, but I am reading them. Buckets of them. So great to have this and give this author another try. Maybe without, Joyce in the picture. Then this next one, a pure joy. A pure joy. I always say the Brattle will provide. If I wait long enough, if I'm patient enough and careful enough, the Brattle will provide anything that I am lacking. And very famously, when it comes to the great author Patrick O'Brian, his Aubrey and Maturin Napoleon 19th century, I almost said it myself, the Napoleonic era seafaring adventures, starring Captain Jack Aubrey and his friend Stephen Maturin. Once upon a time, when those were coming out, I got them. I had the whole set in hardcover. And I carefully annotated that set, underlining, leaving extensive notes on the back of every volume, and then somehow I got rid of that set. Somehow that set is out there in the wild, with a ton of annotations by me. And I thought years ago, what you really want to do is reassemble that whole set in hardcover, and then once you have it all, then go through it all again and re-annotate. Just reinvent the wheel, do the whole thing. Only this time, hold on to it. And I was immensely helped by a big find, maybe at the Brattle, maybe not. A big find of a whole bunch of these books, except for a few. First there were 5 that I didn't have. Then there were 4. Then finally there were 2. And every step along the way, I refused, for whatever reason, to make a note of which ones I don't have. To make a note of that, so that if I come across a few, I'm not constantly buying Patrick O'Brian duplicates. So that I'm not constantly doing that. Just the other day, I was looking at my shelf of Patrick O'Brian novels, and just the other day I thought, you should refresh your memory on which ones you need. And I thought numbers might be a little easier to remember than titles, so I picked the titles. 9 and 13. 9 and 13 are the 2 volumes I was missing. And today, at the Brattle, I found 13, the 13-gun salute. In these hardcover editions with the deckled edges. I found this at the Brattle today. Proving once again that the Brattle will provide. Patience will out. The only Patrick O'Brian hardcover with a dust jacket that I am now missing is Treason's Harbor, number 9. That's the only one I'm missing. Then I will have the complete set. Sooner or later, a hardcover with a dust jacket of Treason's Harbor will show up. I am now down to 1. There's only 1 Patrick O'Brian novel that I don't have. Fantastic. I'm going to resist the urge to reread, although it doesn't matter. These things will repay any amount of rereading. If you haven't investigated this series, but have heard all the superlatives about it, trust me when I say it earns those superlatives. It is amazing, amazing stuff. If you look at it and you think, okay, well, I vaguely remember Horatio Hornblower. I vaguely remember that. So, it's going to be for age of sale aficionados or whatnot. No. I'm sure that other Patrick O'Brian fans have told you that this series is not like that. And maybe they can't put it into words completely, and I can't either, but no. No. This is just a completely beast of a different nature. And I am now 1 book away from a complete set. Just the other day, I found at a little free library here in the neighborhood, I found a paperback copy of the Commodore, which is way down on the list. It's very late in the series. And I grabbed it anyway, just for the fun of it, and I'm about halfway through rereading that one. It doesn't matter. But once I find Treason's Harbor, once I have a hardcover with a dust jacket to go right in line with all the rest of these of Treason's Harbor, then I will go through, I'll make a project out of it. I'll go through and read the whole of the series, book by book, carefully underlining and annotating, making sure that this is the definitive read-through, to recover the definitive read-through that I did and got rid of. Gave away. There's only 1 that I'm missing now. Then this next one is a hardcover. It's a series that I've shown you before from Avenel Press. And what they are is they had a whole run on there of books. What they do is they take an author and they put 5 books in a volume. usually with mildly commissioned new cover artwork, never any introductions, no notes, no appendices or anything like that, just reprint volumes. Mark Richardson of the BookTube channel, Richardson Reads, has mentioned a few times to me that those can be a godsend when you have he is the library director of a tiny library. And anthologies like that can be a godsend for him because it allows him to have 5 books in the space of only one. And so when I see some of those, if I think that he or his patrons might be in any way interested, I send them along if they're in good enough shape. You can often find them in good shape. I have one for Agatha Christie, maybe 2 for Agatha Christie. I have one for Jeeves and Wooster, and I found one today. That I definitely, I don't know that it's in good enough shape for Mark's library, but I definitely wanted it myself for a reason that will be immediately obvious on the cover. I found the Dashiell Hammett volume, which has 5 novels, all 5 novels that he wrote, and the cover illustration is Nick Charles of Nick and Nora fame from The Thin Man, and he is walking their dog Fala. And I don't know if you're maybe familiar with Nick and Nora from the movies, but if you're familiar with Nick and Nora from the novel, then you know what kind of dog Fala is. And if you need any help, there's the cover illustration. Fala is a miniature schnauzer. So I have passed on Dashiell Hammett anthologies in the past because I wanted a miniature schnauzer on the cover. And I did it in the past only because I'm a big fan of dogs. Little did I guess. Little did I guess that I would have one of my own. Now it was absolutely necessary for me to have this. This has a tiny, it doesn't have an introduction, but it has a tiny little opening paragraph by Lillian Hellman, who knew Dashiell Hammett quite well. And I'm wondering if we read that paragraph together. The paragraph was written in 1965. And I'm wondering if we read that paragraph together, how many lines will it take Lillian Hellman to make it all about her? Shall we find out? Dashiell Hammett was born in St. Mary's County, Maryland on May 27, 1894. He died in Lenox Hill Hospital, New York City, in the early morning of January 10, 1961. We had met in 1930, but I was to see the writing of only one novel, The Thin Man, and if I remember correctly, The Thin Man is dedicated to her. I have, and will perhaps someday publish, a part of a novel on which he had been working long before his death. There we go, 4 lines. It took her 4 lines to make it about me. I have an unpublished Dashiell Hammett novel. Maybe I'll publish it someday. What else does she have to say, though? I have been asked many times over the years why he did not write another novel after The Thin Man. I do not know. I think, but I only think, I know a few of the reasons. He wanted to do a new kind of work. He was sick for many of those years and getting sicker. But he was a man who kept his work and his plans for his work in angry privacy. And even I would not have been answered if I'd ever asked. And maybe because I never asked is why I was with him until the last day of his life. That's good. She's so good, though. I mean, she's unbearable, but she's so good. But 5 novels is no small amount to leave behind, and I hope he would have been pleased that they are all together again. Oh, that's charming. Although, speaking on behalf of Old Bailey hacks everywhere, 5 novels is not a bad amount to leave behind for a year, but for a whole lifetime of work. But anyway, I got the Dashiell Hammett Avenel collection. They all look like this. They all have a line right at the 3/4 mark, the header like that, and then a vague piece of cover artwork and a list of what's inside, whether it's Travis McGee or Hercule Poirot or Miss Marple or Sherlock Holmes or whatever. A good library to get. Really not bad at all. I just this one just sprang out at me for obvious reasons. I had to get it. Then we have a thing that's 120 years old, an old, beautiful thing that is largely falling apart. It's the type of thing you see at the Brattle that you don't tend to see at other used bookstores, especially not for $1 out in a sale lot. But it was so lovely a thing that I figured even if it does fall apart on me, I can still give it a read, one last read, the last read of its life, and I can save some of the artwork. It's full of beautiful original artwork. I can save some of that. Jason Harrigan on his BookTube channel, he is not with us now. He is on Lenten retreat, but I'm hoping that he will come back, and maybe even that he will watch this video from whatever monastery he is located. But he has mentioned on his channel, Jason is, in addition to being an ardent reader, he is also a book collector and dealer. He is the ardent bibliophile of the murder mystery, only he hasn't as yet been murdered. But he has mentioned that some dealers, when they encounter an illustrated book with lovely interior artwork, will cut that artwork out and frame it, and it will be a separate thing. Now, those dealers might sell them, but some of these pictures I might like to keep as little, just accent. I would get them all matted and framed, but they'd be tiny little things, and maybe have a sequence of them on one wall. But that's long term. I may be selling this book short. It may be able to stand up to multiple rereadings. That would be great, because I have a feeling I'm going to love it. This is called The Cottage Homes of England. The drawings are by Helen Allingham, and the text is by Stuart Dick. And this is, I don't want to block the bean. I want you to get everything in here. Not just the books and me, but the bean as well. It's The Cottage Homes of England. This came out in 1909. It's, as you can see, it's in rough shape. But it might survive a read. And let me show you what I'm talking about for the artwork. There's a lot of original color artwork in here, and it's all of it has these onion skin protector pages. Here is the first one. What is this called? An Ancient Cottage is just the name of that. Just lovely. Absolutely lovely. And I looked through this thing, and those kind of pictures are all through here. In fact, I don't think there's anything else. I don't think this book gives us any kind of schematics or floor plans. Here's another one. Oh, how adorable. This is a Hampshire Cottage. Just lovely. So you see what I mean. If the book were to die, if the book were just to fall apart and be unsalvageable after a read, there's still plenty of artwork that can be saved. There's no reason why it has to disappear along with the book. What's another one that we've got here? There's one every other page. There's a piece of artwork. I don't want to tear any of these onion skin protector pages. What's this one? Old house near Redlinch in Wiltshire, with the two chimneys going. Just fantastic. Just fantastic. So I admit I got this in large part for the artwork, but I will definitely, there's a lot of text in here. I will definitely read this. This is, what's this next one that we've got here? This is at Wishford. This time there are chickens in the road. These are humbler things. A lot of you, if you've been watching this channel, will know that I have a sweet spot for gigantic country piles, English country houses. These are humbler things, although oftentimes, in fact, many, many times, not a bit younger. A lot of these cottages that are pictured here don't exist anymore and were very old when these two did their profiling. And there's lots and lots of prose as well. So, boy, every time I open the book, though, I'm coming across a picture. So this gives us the structure of a house, the surroundings, old farmhouses, country inns. Here is Peacock Cottage in West Horsley. See, Peacock Cottage in West Horsley. I wonder if it's still standing. I wonder if it's a tourist attraction. I wonder how many of these things are still standing and maybe in private hands. Lovely. And the type of thing, I have a great interest in English country houses, yes. But these things were in all of those villages. The villages that those country houses either sat outside of or owned. And a volume like this, when am I ever going to see anything like this again? I grabbed it right away to read up on how the other half lives in the English country house scene that I know so well, and that I'm currently writing. For March Mystery Madness, I am writing the Apollo twins. I'm writing a Regency-era murder mystery set in an English country house. And there are houses like this that feature. Now I get to see them a lot more clearly. It's just going to be a delight to read. I'll be very careful with it, but I'm tough on my books, so I don't expect this thing it's not in the best of shape. I don't expect it to survive. And then we'll finish up with something very similar. This is in a little bit of rough shape, but I think I can probably salvage this. This is by Christopher Simon Sykes. I've actually had a copy of this in the past, but in trade paperback, not a hardcover. And this is heavily illustrated, so you'd want something, in a hardcover. This is Private Palaces, Life in London's Great Houses. So very much of a kin with old English country cottages in terms of architectural history, and its intersection with social history. But this is the great counterpart to English country houses. right? You have age-old landowner or a new textile or coal or railroad billionaire. The way they set up their lives was that they had a country estate, often multiple, but one that was the showcase, one that was where they would throw open all the rooms and invite people in the summer when London was a stew pot and nobody was in town. Think, for instance, of the Palliser family in Anthony Trollope's novels. They have Gatherum Castle, which is an enormous country pile, but they're so wealthy that they have other full-blown, full-staffed houses in various parts of the country that they don't even often use, right? Where they can rusticate a family member, if need be. And there's also the townhouse, the house in London, which were often display pieces on their own of a very different kind. And unlike country houses, a lot of those townhouses, those London homes, have been destroyed. So we have floor plans and historic illustrations, but we don't have as many of them extant as we would like. And this is the book about them. So you have not only historical pictures of what some of them used to look like, but also photographs for the ones that survived into the era of photography. So you've got famous portraits with the background being part of a London house, but also photographs of some of the ones that survived and that maybe survive to this day. I remember I've had a paperback of this thing and I really liked it. And the idea of finding a hardcover, the hardcover is a little bit rough, but I don't plan on getting rid of this. This will go with the Cottages book and all of my country house books. This will just go on a shelf and I will use it when I am investigating time after time, when I feel like writing something fiction. My mind goes back to this world. Maybe because I just love Regency romances so much, and that's when this world was being born. This assumption that your money will come from rents, from landed property, or from international trade, and that you will lavish that money before there were income taxes. You will lavish that money on a London house that you keep for the season, and a great country house that you keep for inviting guests and dealing power and wheeling and dealing away from the shadow of Parliament. I am attracted to that world, perfectly willing to admit that, and this is a great book on that subject, the companion to Life in the Country House that we've seen on my library tour. So there you go. That was a wonderful, wonderful Brattle trip. Not just because I had credit, so these books were all free, but also because the credit itself was amazing, an amazing gift of generosity from two of you. But also that I would get approached by a fan. It's not anything, I mean, I'm not letting it get to my head, but it's not anything that I ever predicted would ever happen in my life. Not in a million years. And that was just delightful. Absolutely delightful to take a selfie with someone who went to the Brattle specifically on the off chance hoping that I might just be there, and I was. So that was a great trip to the Brattle. I have a feeling that it's going to be raining the next couple of days, so I wouldn't be going back anyway. But we have private palaces. A look at as much as can be reconstructed about the great palatial country, London homes of the rich and famous. Then we have the Cottage Homes of England, a very old book that I will treat lovingly. I will try to give it a good home. Then we have the Avenel anthology of Dashiell Hammett, all 5 novels with the appropriate cover illustration. Then we have the 13-Gun Salute, the find of the day. One of the 2 Patrick O'Brian novels that I need to finish my set. I now only need Treason's Harbor. That's it. Number 9. That's the only one I need, and then the set will be done. And then a bunch of mass markets. We have The Death of Jason Harrigan from March Mystery Madness. We have the Marginborough Chronicles and Lord Valentine's Castle, Robert Silverberg reissues. And a bunch of these old Bantam mass market paperbacks. We have the Hunchback of Notre Dame, abridged. We have The Call of the Wild and White Fang, and finally we have Nicholas Nickleby. So not a bad Brattle haul as they go. Made all the better because it was so personal. It felt so personal, which is wonderful. So thank you again, those of you who called in the credits. Thank you very much, the person who approached me at the Brattle. If you are ever in that situation, and you see me at the Brattle and you're wondering, oh my God, will it bother him if I love his videos or I watch his videos, even if I don't love them? Will it bother him if I approach? It will not bother me. Feel free to do so. I am something of an extrovert. But it was great. Those two things made what a fun trip to the Brattle even more fun. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, and I will take you with me to the Brattle next time. Thank you, BookTube.